morning, you have local shares going down by close to half a percent. Now at 7,385, like what I mentioned earlier. It's been three straight days of gains here for the benchmark, with shares inching higher by 1.9% over a 3 day period, but that has so far inched lower to 1.4%. We did see a flattish end to the trading day on Wednesday, but there might be room for more upside here, at least according to analysts from First Metro Investment and the University of Asia and the Pacific. They say 7,500 finish to the end of the year, or if not, by the first month of 2022. While the spike in crude oil prices have tempered gains here for the benchmark, they say that easing of restrictions and quicker vaccine rollout further buoy that positive sentiment, cementing their view that we have entered bull market territory. Talking about bullish here, Jollibee is casting a wider net in mainland China. They are looking to add 33 stores in China by next month. That's across multiple brands here. We're talking Tim Ho Wan, Yong He King, and Hong Zhuang Yuan. Now, they have already launched 80 stores so far this year, especially with China being one of Jollibee's four pillar markets. The food operator says their expansion in China is going to further beef up revenue. Targets for Tim Ho Wan specifically is quite aggressive here. From having just six stores in China now, they are hoping to expand that network to 100 stores in 5 years' time. Yesterday, we did see Jollibee increasing by 1.4%. But again, you have JFC joining the sell-off today, down 1.5% to 244 pesos and 20 centavos a piece. Let's see how they are faring compared to the rest of our blue chips here. Let me just refresh this chart right here. But you see a number of, you have decliners already beating advancers so far. Only a couple of stocks here starting the day in the green. AC Energy, for one, is up over 8%. This as they are set to redeem $82.4 million of 5.65% notes here. Also, you have the likes of Security Bank starting the day at a positive territory. Vulcan, as you can see, also up by 0.3%. This as one of their competition, at least in the home improvement sector, is set to open today. We're talking about IKEA. More story or more update on that later. However, on the flip side here, you'd see a number of stocks starting the day in the red. SM Prime, as you can see, also down 2.3%. Again, they are set to open the biggest IKEA store in the world today. That's after providing this early access over the past few days here. But what's interesting also here with SM Malls is that yesterday we did talk to their president, Stephen Tan. He told us on the show that foot traffic has already returned to pre-pandemic level for some of their branches, even exceeding 120% for the likes of SM Mall of Asia and South Mall. In fact, week on week, since October, Tan says that volume has increased already by double digits. Well, revenue was still down for the first 9 months of the year. SM Mall says they see recovery by year end, as revenue in October to November alone rose by 20%. They expect full recovery by the last quarter of 2022. Looking at how SM Prime is faring so far today, not a good sight here, down 2.4%. The stock here is currently valued at 36 pesos and 60 centavos a piece. But you see, that's pretty much dragging the whole counter here. The property index is down by 0.9%, with just a few stocks here really providing some lift for the sector, particularly Cebu Land Masters up 1.4%. Mega World also increasing by 0.9%. Like what I mentioned earlier, let's check in on our home retail stocks here. This is IKEA opens. You'd see here you have all home represented by the orange line right here so far, starting the day in the green, as well as Wilkin. Like what I mentioned earlier, Wilkin is up 0.7%. Now, here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. IKEA Philippines finally opens today. Shoppers may take their pick from selections of Scandinavian home furnishings at the 68,000 square meter facility at the Mall of Asia complex in Pasay City. But because of the pandemic, the largest IKEA store in the world will only be receiving 4,000 customers at a time through a slot booking basis. The management expects more customers to come in as the holiday season draws near. SM Supermall President Stephen Tan adds that the public's response to IKEA's opening in the country has been great.
Moment because they all need to pre-register. No, we don't accept walk-ins, but the response has been very great. We had the test run last November 20. We had a test run, and it is actually the biggest test run numbers that IKEA have seen globally.
Now, infrastructure spending rose by 25% in September as the government continues to ramp up construction activities before the election ban on public works takes effect in March 2022. Infrastructure and other capital outlays rose to 71 billion pesos from just 57 billion pesos in the same month last year. That figure is also slightly higher than the 70 billion pesos posted in August 2021. The government has set a 1 trillion peso infrastructure budget for this year, which represents about 5.1% of the GDP. The health department is now seeking the World Health Organization's guidance if the COVID situation in the country can already be labeled as controlled, given that positivity rate has been meeting WHO benchmark of 5%. Does this mean a full reopening of the economy? Should this be the case, is the private sector ready or are they even backing the move? Let's get insights from George Barcelon, chairman of the Philippine Exporters Confederation and a private sector representative to LEDAC. Good afternoon. Good morning, Sir George.
Good morning, Chester.
Okay, sir, first, are we ready for a full reopening? Or, like what I asked earlier, are you even backing the possibility?
Well, so far, all the data indicates, no, from the as reported by DOH, that the number of people getting infected, no, has been tapering off. It's below, even below 1,000. So that's a good sign. This could be that the public now is really following all the protocols on the health hygiene issues. So we are confident that moving to alert two and gradually opening up the economy is good for the country.
But what do you think should be some of the considerations here? Should we at least fully reopen the economy?
Well, I've read report from Department of Finance and also NEDA that they're looking forward to the alert level going down to alert level one. Okay, but having said that, definitely this is good for the economy and for the working community. But I would like to caution that the government must be on top of the healthcare service. Unavoidable that there might be some surges, as what we see in other countries, in Singapore, in European countries, that when they open up their economy, the after sometimes less than a month or a month or so, they began to see surges, and some of the countries have reset, or in other words, they have tightened down again. We cannot afford that, and we hope that, as I said earlier, all the necessary steps to deal with in case there's any surges. And I think as of now, the capacity utilization in most of the hospitals or the COVID-19 wards is about 35% or below. So that's a good sign. But there are certain areas that lately, only last week, has gone up.
Mhm. Okay. Now, one of the other things, of course, that government is trying to do in order to at least prevent another surge, they're of course ramping up vaccination, and we've seen that at least creating some momentum already. And one of the policies they're putting in place is a no vaccine, no work mandate, requiring it for on-site workers. What's your reaction to that?
Well, my reaction is that now that there are more vaccines available, but in certain areas, due to logistic constraints, the number of people vaccinated is still quite low. So we cannot fault some of them not being vaccinated. No?
Mhm.
But if we look back to the early days of the our quarantine, no, of and locking down the economy, we government gave some exceptions on the essentials, on the exporting sector, on the medical sector, on the food sectors. Even then, there was no vaccination around. And what we had was just testing. At first, it was the anti-rapid antigen test, and then furthermore, when the government invested in the PCR test, that the testing were ramped up, and people avail of that, and it allowed those who are found negative to go to work. Now, at this moment in time, yes, in NCR it's good. High percentage of people are vaccinated, and companies are using that as a yardstick. If you're vaccinated, especially in the service sector, like the restaurants and the likes, no, and on-site workers, that is required from the workers that they're vaccinated.
Mhm.
Uh, True that there are still hesitancy, but I looked at it from the point of because if you follow the our laws, even the Secretary of Justice, Secretary Guevara said, you cannot force, okay,
Mhm.
or mandate the workers, force them to be vaccinated if they don't
But
want
I
to.
guess, Sir George, that also begs a question. What is the rate of vaccination here for the private sector? Let's zero in, for example, in the export industry.
It's quite high. I'm glad that the government was able to ramp up. As a matter of fact, at the onset, many of the private sector they went on board to buy their own vaccines
Mhm.
from AstraZeneca, from Moderna, and many of this came in a bit delayed. And we're happy that the government, was able to get vaccines from China quite early and with enough amount to be shared by the LGUs. So even for many companies in the export industry, and even when we heard from the members of the ECO, they went to their LGUs and they were able to be vaccinated, which is good.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, some of them are telling me that they want to donate their surplus, the one they ordered,
Mhm.
to the LGUs because they don't need it anymore. And there is this fear of expiry on
Mhm.
these
Now,
vaccines. Okay.
good thing that you mentioned that, Sir George. I mean, in order to avoid vaccine wastage, some corners of the private sector are already calling for the government to allow them to use their current stockpile as booster for their workers. What's your thought on that?
Well, I think we do have to follow the protocol set by the Department of Health. What I read is that those who have been vaccinated for 6 months period already, they are good candidates to get the booster. So I think many of them have been vaccinated with two dosages since this mass inoculation started in March, April. So a lot of them, I think, are candidates to get the booster.
Now, also, let's go back a bit to our discussion in the no vaccine, no work mandate. One of the conditions there is that for the unvaccinated, they have to show their weekly, or if not every 2 weeks, RT-PCR or antigen test. I mean, that's going to be a bit of a challenge there, especially for some employees. How's the private sector receiving that requirement there from the government?
Just as I mentioned earlier, the businessmen are very flexible. It's a question of whether they need the workers. As I said earlier, when we started clamping down, we gave exception to the essential sectors, export, electronics, food, and I think that logic still prevail. If you feel that there's enough business for you to have your workforce in full, and some of them are not vaccinated, If it were up to me, I will help them test. Okay, I cannot. I think it's unfair to have them shoulder the expense. Okay, everybody's hard up already, and really, in this situation, is the working class, no, that is feeling the burden. So I would not. I feel. I mean, with the malasakit feeling is that I'll give them a test, and that's good for 2 weeks. And
Mhm.
December is around. People do need to work, and I think it's some sort of a compassion that we show, okay, for them to work at least for 2 weeks. And the 13 months that has been talked about, a lot of the workers will not get the full 13 month, mind you, because they've been working for about 3 to 6 months, and the 13 month is also prorated.
Mhm.
So, as I said, I think many companies, if they need the workers, okay, they would be willingly to spend for the test. Okay, uh, but I would suggest that the government really give this test really for free, so that it's a question of building the confidence
Mhm.
in the country. And yes, for what reason or not, some people are hesitant about it. I read the case wherein he was hesitant because he lost a child to the dengue vaccine. So
Mhm.
there are cases like that, no? But it's very few, far in between.
Mhm.
But personally, I feel that, and it's our experience, when we get some of the workers that were not vaccinated and we tested them, they came into work and they saw their fellow workers, no? Yung mga na bakunado na, wala naman side effect eh. So parang ang laki ng kaysa yung management na pinipilit mo na you have to be vaccinated. When they see their kapwa workers na okay naman, sabi no eh. So many of them, as a matter of fact, our hesitancy at the beginning was about 40%. But when we did that, it went down.
Oh.
It went down to less than 20%.
Mhm.
So I think that should be the approach, wherein let's not they're hard up already. I don't want to impose, any additional burden on this working class.
All right, a different approach to at least addressing vaccine hesitancy, especially among private sector workers. Thank you very much for your time this morning, George Barcelon, chairman of the Philippine Exporters Confederations and a private sector representative to LEDA. Thank you, sir, and stay safe.
Thank you, Chester.
And that's a first look into the business day this Thursday, November 25, 2021. Catch Business World live for the market close at 3:15 p.m. today. I'm Jes Delos Santos in VR1 News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.